Hello and welcome to this month's edition of Our Town. This month we will be talking to Chief McMillan about the fire department, and we don't just mean the fire station. The fire department in Arlington is growing to better serve the citizens of Arlington. Coming up next on Our Town. Hello, I'm Mayor Mike Wisman. I'm joined with Assistant Fire Chief Arlington's own Jim McMillan. How you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Glad to be
Good.
here.
Yeah, it's good. Well, we're here today to talk about, usually we're in different roles. You've interviewed me and now I'm interviewing you. But we're here to talk about the fire department today on all different levels, all different aspects. So first off, I want to congratulate you because last night we had what we call a pushing in ceremony of one of our new fire trucks. So, and in that little surprise last night, it had your name on the side of it. So would you like to talk about that for just a second?
I was ready for the push-in ceremony. I wasn't ready for displaying of the plaque with the fire truck with my name on it. I was very honored, very proud. I wish we could have put 17 names on it. We're a team, as you know. The fire service, we're it's a brotherhood, it's a family. But I was very honored, and it meant a lot to me.
It was a neat ceremony, and people don't realize that how fortunate we are to have a growing fire department and that equipment. And and just so people know, when you put names on fire trucks, there's usually one of two ways you do it. It's either usually the fire chiefs or somebody in the fire service, or sometimes an elected official, and/or line of duty deaths. So we're fortunate, and we don't ever want to see it, like Chief said last night.
Never do.
A name on the side of a fire truck from a line of duty death. So it's an honor to have yours and other chiefs, and hopefully that's a growing tradition within Arlington that we'll have that going on. But I'm glad you're here today because one of the things that we talked about so much is the fire department, public safety. And public safety covers a big variety of aspects, including sheriffs or law enforcement and all that. But we're going to specifically talk about Arlington Fire Department today. So you've been with Arlington in approximately 14 years?
About 14 years.
And so kind of go back and give a brief description of what the fire department, fire station, however you want to describe it, 14 years ago when you came on, what it.
Oh my gosh, it was a small fire station. The kitchen was probably as big as this little podium right here. Bed hall slept 5 people. I understand that at that time we had one pumper, the snorkel. They had just gotten, it was a fairly new piece of equipment. In those days, I actually had a floater. The manpower was such that there was one guy on the department that literally floated, and his schedule was set each month depending on who was on vacation, things like that. Bed hall was small. It just was a very small station.
Yeah. And I guess approximately 14 years ago, that was 2005, so we were roughly probably about 7,000 people.
One thing, 7,000. I don't think it was much more than that if it was, but.
Yeah, because I know around the millennium 2000, we were at about 2,500, so we had that rapid growth around the 2004, 5, 6 area. But so what you're saying is it was a very small, kind of what you call a small rural fire department.
That was correct, and as I said, they had just gotten a pumper that had a basket on it. The pumper was new. It was a 2003. The snorkel basket was a 1973.
Retrofitted.
So it was retrofitted. But it served the town well then. So things have changed quite a bit.
Well, good. I know I moved out here around that same time, and never planned on being in the role of mayor at that point. But as I was being a firefighter myself for Memphis, I knew some of the guys here, and would get to know everybody. And so over the next few years, until I ran for mayor in 2011, there was always talk of growth in the fire department. So kind of explain, like when we talk about manpower, where were we again 14 years ago, and where are we, I guess, say 5 years later, and then up to now?
Yeah, again, a small department, ran four-man company.
Which is
but
almost
that-
unheard of in a lot of rural
Yeah,
rural fire
that
departments.
is. Again, the town has been very good in progressing that part as far as keeping manpower and providing for the safety of the personnel. As we grew 4 years ago, that the fire station as it has existed for a long time was expanded. And the expansion was designed to get ready as the growth of the city continued. You know, the town was going to grow. It had already began to really boom. And so the decision was made with the mayor and aldermen to allow the station to be expanded. And that was about 4 years ago. And so it was expanded in order to be able to accommodate 2 engine companies along with the medical personnel. And so that expansion took place. We could sleep 10 people in addition to the 2 medical personnel. The kitchen was enlarged. Weight room was added to give the guys somewhere to go work out. It had a little conference room that was going to be used also as our emergency operations center. Should something fail, we could actually teleconference into the emergency operations center during some big event where maybe we couldn't get down to the EOC. And we got a new engine. After the expansion, we got a new engine. And
Very nice one. Pretty piece of equipment.
Really, really pretty piece of equipment.
Hate to use that in the fire service
Yeah.
pretty piece, but it is a beautiful one with
But it was
the bells and
the
whistles.
first one was 2003, and this was in 2013. We got the engine, larger capacity, just a much newer piece of equipment, a lot of new technology on it. And so all that was in preparation for expansion when we knew that eventually a second station would be built. But we had to get the firefighters on the job, and so we knew we were going to have somewhere to house them, somewhere to sleep them. So that's why that expansion took place in preparation for.
And during that same anticipation of growing the fire department, we were able to add an additional 1 person per shift too, right?
Yes,
So right
we
now
did.
we have a total of 17 firefighters. So kind of
That is
explain
correct.
what 17 broken down over the fire station is.
The fire service, as you know, the fire service basically has 3 shifts. They have an A, B, and C shift. Each shift runs 24 hours. They start at 7 a.m. in the morning, and they go home at 7 a.m. the next day. That the 5 personnel allows for the safety of in the fire service. They always have what they call 2 in, 2 out. First company on the scene. Structure fires are very serious and they're very dangerous. And so it's dangerous for just 3 or 4 people to make it. The 5th guy also allows for at least 1 person to be off on vacation, or if they're sick, then we still run a minimum of 4-man crew.
Or hurt.
Which is to say, or hurt.
Because people don't realize,
Absolutely.
In this type of job, if you have a sprained ankle or a broken arm, it's not like a regular office job where you can come into work.
That's
So-
right. That's right. Having at least always having maintaining 4 personnel, and we've really been the mayor and the alderman, you and the alderman, and the town has really supported us to be able to maintain that 4-man crew just for the safety of the personnel.
Well, in that same aspect, when we talk about the growth up to this point, we'll get to the rest of it here in a second, but the personnel themselves, I mean, as we've grown in manpower and equipment, like you said, expansion of our current facilities, we've also grown in calls and runs and need. So
That's
let's
correct.
talk about that for a second. Let's just
Well, we have expanded. We run a little over around 1,000 calls a year. The average 40% of those, 50% of those are fire calls. The other 50%, really a little higher, about 60% are medical calls. That's the one reason we have changed from basic life support to advanced life support.
Which is great.
We now have paramedics. We have a paramedic on each shift, and the paramedic allows us to, the ALS capability allows us to give better care to the citizens on the scene until the ambulance can get there. So the advanced care that they can receive begins when we arrive on the scene, rather than having to wait till the ambulance gets there and gets them to the hospital. So we do have one paramedic on each shift now, and we plan to continue that.
It's a great stopping point right there. We'll talk more with Chief McMillan right after this. That's fine. It's a lot. I mean, like I said,
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter, your religion or, what part of the world you're from, that just sort of all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
Yo siento que soy parte de esa bendición que ese niño recibió al irse a su casa ya sanado.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Welcome back. So, Chief, we've talked about where we've been as a fire department. Let's talk about where we're going. And by that, I mean, we talked at the very beginning of the show, we talked about the new fire truck that just came in. So let's talk about the new fire truck, and then we'll get into the station and personnel
Okay.
and see what the need is.
The new fire truck is what they call an Ascendant. It's a 107-foot aerial truck. Our current snorkel that we had, again, that served the city well, the town well for years, was only 55 foot. And when people think of 55 feet, they think that, okay, it reaches a full 55 feet, but because of the design of it, it doesn't reach a full 55 feet. The new aerial is 107 foot. It has all the latest technology built into it. And some of the features about it, it does have a foam tank in it. We use foam when we have any fires that deal with gasoline or oils, things like that, to suppress the fire. We've gone to battery-operated rescue tools. Battery technology has increased so well that now, rather than having to have a hydraulic pump and hoses and things like that, we now are running battery-powered rescue tools. I never thought I would see the day that would happen.
I've been fortunate enough to use them, and it's amazing what a battery the size of a little bigger than your drill battery can do to cut a car open. And so I was playing with some of that. We don't have as many of the tools on our one piece of equipment that you have on yours, but it is super nice.
And so what that's done is not having to have that pump and the hoses and everything along with that. That has freed up some compartmentation for us to add some additional things. Because we are a small department, our trucks have to be set up to do all kinds of things, rescue, fire. And so from the rescue side, rescue takes so many components from the rescue side of a truck. The cribbing, the shores, the jacks, and things like that. And since we are small and the second company, the third company in is delayed, then that gives us the capability and the equipment to carry and get to the scene to be able to handle whatever we need to without having to wait for a long term for additional resources. The truck carries 750 gallons of water. I'm sorry, the Ascendant only carries 500 gallons of water. But the aerial gives us the capability. We have a lot of large buildings that's been here for a long time. And up until now, we've really not had any way to reach the top of or over those buildings in the event of any large event, whether it be a rescue, a fire, or whatever. And so now with the 107-foot capability, because we have to always remember that we have to be out in the parking lot. We can't just pull up next to a building. So we need that reach to reach, even let's talk about the school. If we had to get to the roof of the school, we can't just pull up next to the school. We'd be out in the parking lot. So that 107-foot gives us tremendous advantage over the 55-foot snorkel. And So it gives us that reach we need.
I'm glad you said that because, you know, as we've talked about the town growing and the growing needs, and sometimes it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
So some had questioned at one point that we were buying a fire truck because we're building a hotel or an apartment complex, and
Right.
and really it's anticipation of growing the department and the needs of the department. And so when we looked at that, and especially when you and your committee looked at what do we need. You know, like you mentioned the industry we have here. We have 2 major medical manufacturers. We have some food manufacturing and stuff that are big warehouse type buildings that
Right.
sometimes have materials in them that, you know, we need to make sure we've got the proper equipment. So, and not only that, but yes, there will be growth coming in with new buildings that may be taller, but it's never, we're actually being proactive on
What's coming?
what's coming and what we already have, and
Right.
not just saying we need this nice new piece of equipment.
No,
So
that's true.
I appreciate you saying that. So with that going into service here in the next couple weeks, where does that lead us next to coming next with the expansion of the fire department? Earlier you said we built the current station that could house 2, but let's get into more of what we need as far as the long-term need for a second station and kind of what's going to happen with that.
Well, long term, I'm sure expansion is going to continue on the south side of Interstate 40. And with a business park out there with several big businesses, even in the business park, it's going to give us a better response time to get out to those businesses. And there's some large buildings out there also. And so along that expansion and getting the truck in anticipation, we're also, I don't know if you want to get into the fire station right now. Or
No,
if
let's
that
go ahead.
was,
Let's go ahead and get into that because we're going to be limited on time. We can
we're-
talk all day.
We're really
can't we?
excited about the things that are happening. We are building a new fire station at the corner of Airline and Donaldson, and it's going to be about 13,000 square feet. Up until this point, we've never really had a training facility. We're going to have a training room that will house about 25. The station will be, the new station will also be designed to sleep 2 companies in the event of a major event where we have to house another company, guys coming in off duty or whatever, in some type of major event. So we would have the housing capability there. We're going to have our admin offices there. We'll have the chief and myself, but we're also going to have a fire marshal's office, and we'll have a plans room. Because there's so much growth going on. There's growth that's tremendous, and it's really exciting. We'll have, as I said, the training room. We'll be able to have an extractor. An extractor, basically what we're talking about in the extractor, it's a heavy-duty washing machine that we've learned so much about cancer and the cancer rates in firefighters. And technology has allowed us now to realize that what's causing these cancers in firefighters are exactly what we're going into when we fight fires. And so now, when we come back, our gear has to be washed, decontaminated before we put it back on because our poor sweat and we end up getting those carcinogens in us. And so along those lines too, the town has been awesome in allowing us each firefighter has 2 sets of gear. And so we have a bunk room that can serve 11. We have, of course, all the female restroom, showers. The station will have a vestibule in the front for a safe haven. Someone can get in out of the weather and be able to call into the station. The station will be secure. The stay in time, unfortunately, that's needed. We have to talk about security now in everywhere.
Schools, fire departments, any public building especially.
So we'll have a vestibule that you can that someone could come into, pick up a phone, and get back to the firefighters there if they're in the station. But if they're out, that phone will also can be used to call someone else. But at least they're in a safe area. The bay is being designed with an exhaust system for the exhaust from the equipment to keep it clean.
Well, let's talk about the location for just a second. So when we talk about south of 40, a lot of people have been asking, why there? How come there? And you mentioned response times earlier, but
Right.
there's also another issue because if you do look at our infrastructure around here, we are on a new Madrid fault line, which, God forbidding we ever have an earthquake, but, bridges and
Correct.
overpasses, underpasses. So when we talk about, and people forget that Arlington does go to Highway 64 down
That's
to Chambers
correct.
Chapel. So even though there may just be a handful of homes, those residents have the same right of protection as the
Absolutely,
ones on this side.
absolutely.
So that's,
And that's, you're absolutely correct. And so where I was talking about response times, but just that separation, because if we should lose the bridge over I-40, there are not a lot of other major thoroughfares for us to get around. So
a
it
major
would-
wreck on the
or-
bridge.
Yeah, that's correct. A major wreck would block it up. So it does. It adds that protection because we have, the growth is going to go that way. So
Well, let's talk about, all right, so we've got a new fire truck, we've got a new fire station. Now let's talk about, we'll wrap it up here at the end
Okay.
with we're hiring, 12 new firefighters?
we're going to hire 12 new firefighters. It'll be 4 per shift. And one of those 4 on each shift will be a paramedic.
Great.
So that we can maintain the LS in both. We set the engine up when we bought it to be able to handle the medical equipment that we have. So we'll have 12 firefighters, and as I said, Chief and I, our offices will be over there. But
We're basically almost doubling the size
we're
of the fire
doubling the size of the department.
I mean, because we're going from one station with 15 employees, or 15 firefighters to 2 stations with 27 firefighters
27.
plus 2 chiefs.
Yeah.
So it's, we're fortunate in that aspect to be able to do that. So when do we plan on looking at having a new crew and staff?
The target date for us to have the second company in service is going to be around toward the end of January. The last date I heard as far as the target date for the new station, I think we're going to try to have it completed by November 1st with a little punch list of the little things that need to be
Yeah.
finished up and actually move into the station, ready to operate out of it by the end of November. That's the target date, is end of November. So we're real excited about that. That's not that far away.
Well, and so to kind of come full circle back, we had a station that we renovated, that we've added equipment to, we've added a little bit of personnel. We're buying a new fire truck, we're building a new fire station. The new fire station is just about to start, won't be ready for a little over a year from now.
Right.
So these 12 new firefighters we're hiring as we're expanding, let's go back to where they'll be back. We'll run 2 companies out of our existing station.
We'll run 2 companies. The expansion took that into account, so it'll be a little cramped, but it won't be something we can't overcome. The beds are there for them to sleep in. The kitchen's big enough for us to cook the meals for the both companies. For a short period of time, they'll all be crammed into one station. But that'll be okay too, because like I said, we're family, so they'll live together.
And it's a good way for everybody to train together.
Absolutely.
And we'll be basically still doubling our coverage as far as not necessarily response times, but response availability, I guess you would say. I know there's been some instances in the past where there's been a major car wreck on the interstate where our mutual aid with the county, this is going to provide a new level of service
Absolutely.
that absolutely protects and helps the residents of Arlington and people passing through here.
Absolutely.
So, well, Chief,
We're excited about it. A lot of great things are happening, and you, the board, all the other people involved in making all this happen. We appreciate that so much. That everyone's support has been tremendous in letting us go ahead and begin moving forward. In a lot of things we've done around the town, which we'll talk about in future segments, I'm sure.
Well, and that's where, when I tell people a lot of these things that are happening, it's not because I'm mayor or there's a board member. A lot of our staff lives in town. It's because there's a need for these,
Absolutely.
for these types of services. And I look at whether it's public safety or schools or whatever,
Right.
what's going to be best for me and my family here in town, not as to what as an elected official can do. So, and I think that's the way most of our board and staff looks at it. So that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
So it's an exciting time for all of us.
Yes, it is.
I know we've been knocking on this door for, since before I got elected in 2011. But it's been exciting.
When I came on.
I'm really proud of our board. I'm really proud of our staff. I'm really proud of you, and I'm happy for you with your
I appreciate that.
your tribute on the fire truck.
The citizens can be really proud of the personnel that we've got. They're very well trained. They love to train, and they have a very good level of protection.
Well, Chief, this wraps up this month's show. Thanks again for joining Chief McMillan and us for his years of service. We would like to wish all of our citizens a happy Thanksgiving and invite you all to come out on Depot Square on November 23rd to our annual Christmas on the Square. So until then, we'll see you next month. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.